Hey guys, what's going on? Josh here from Polymathics, the YouTube channel that helps you become a modern day Renaissance man. And today we're going to talk about plotters and pantsers. And for those of you that aren't aware, we're in a series right now about National Novel Writers Month. Most of you, if you're watching this, probably already know what it is. But NaNoWriMo, for short, is where writers from around the world get together and they write their novels. And today, what we're going to talk about is plotters and pantsers. Now, for those of you who have done NaNoWriMo before, you're probably very aware of what that is. But for the noobs in the building, I'm going to drop some knowledge on them right now. How many of you guys, so let me ask you a question, then we'll kind of see where you fall in this planners and pantsers, kind of plotters and pantsers kind of thing. Okay, so how many of you guys like to plot your way before you make your book, right? How many of you guys like to know, what the beginning is going to be, what the middle is going to be, what the end is going to be, who all the characters are, where all the settings are, and all that business? Raise your hand. I actually am more on that side than I am on the other side. Now, how many of you guys say, screw that, that's too artificial, I want to be natural and organic, and I just want to write as the muse hits me? And so you just start writing because there's a cool scene that's been in your mind for years, or you just thought of this great setting where you could have a lover's quarrel or something like that, right? And you just start writing. Okay, well, if you're in the former, that means that you are a plotter. And if you're in the latter, that means you are a pantser, meaning that you fly by the seat of your pants. And I'm here today to tell you, when it comes to NaNoWriMo and writing in general, that you need to take a balanced approach. I think that there's a plotter and a pantser in all of us. And when we look at all of the great writers, that they all do a little bit of both. Now, that one writer may proclaim that they're more of a plotter, one may proclaim that they're more of a pantser, but in some regard, a lot of pantsers who are very good writers just plot very well naturally in their head. And some plotters who are very good writers just pants very good once they're done, right? But first, let's kind of talk about, okay, what are the pros and cons of both of these, and why do we want to try to find a balance? The pros to being a plotter is that you know where your story is going most of the time, and therefore it's very hard to run into roadblocks and writer blocks because you know the direction that it's trying to go. The con from taking the plotter kind of standpoint is that plotters are perfectionists, and in their mind everything has to be perfect before they can go, and a lot of times they try to detail things so perfectly, like there has to be a 3-act structure, and there has to be man versus the world, and man versus self in each of these different conflicts. And when you get into that, what can happen is, because you're trying to make things so perfect and by the book, you never get started. Or maybe you started and then you stopped because you didn't plot that far out and you just get stuck. Now on the other side, on the other hand, we have the pantsers. And the pantsers, their problem is that they very often, and here's the thing, when I first started writing, I was actually more of a pantser. I would think of a really cool scene or a really cool character, and I would start writing them out. And oh man, it was some juicy stuff, right? Like I had like these special effects where like my character would come and they would use their sword, and as they were going to the sword, it like slow motioned and everything stops. And you can see the water like stop as her blade is going through the rain. And I mean, really fun stuff to write. But the problem is once you're done writing that scene or that character or that dialogue, what happens? you don't know where it's going. You have no idea where it's going because you don't know what the whole story is about. You don't know what the theme is about. You haven't written the through line. And you're not sure if the desire line, the spine of that story, is strong enough to hold the conflict that you keep building up. And a lot of times it'll break and then go crashing into the pit of despair because you haven't thought it through enough. So those are the pros and cons of both. And like I said before, finding a balance is the best way to get the best of both worlds. I have done NaNoWriMo. This will be my 3rd year. I've done it twice before, and I've also published a book about FACE, 3 Badass Tips for Military Veterans. It's out on paperback and also can be found on the Kindle. But when I wrote that as well, I did the plotting and pantsing approach where I balanced it out. And essentially what you do is, the first thing you have to think about is, what is your main theme? And we'll go into more detail about, how to find it and stuff like that, but what is the main theme? And then you have to talk about the desire line. Who's the main character who's going to carry this theme throughout, right? There will be other characters, but there's going to be one main character that the story focuses on. What is the genre? Are you writing a Western? Are you writing science fiction? Are you writing a zombie book? Are you writing a criminal detective story? Is it a thriller? There's all these different things to take into account. Where are we going to start? What structure are we going to use to get us there? And by the way, depending on each genre that you use, like if you use the myth genre and mix it up maybe with a little bit of science fiction, a la Star Wars or Guardians of the Galaxy kind of way, then there's going to be a certain structure and certain beats, as they call them, that audiences will expect. So as a plotter, you can sit down and kind of say, okay, you don't have to write all of them out, but you can say, here are the main ones, and these are the ones that I know I can fill in already. And the main thing that they're all going to be based on is, what is the theme of your story? Is the theme to never give up? Is the theme to let go? Is the theme to embrace new challenges? Whatever your theme is, you got to figure that out first. And then you got to figure out what vehicle is going to take it from point A to point B. Then you figure out the characters. And once you know the beginning and the end, right? What is the problem that you're posing in the beginning of your story? And then what is the solution at the end? Well, now you should be able to plot out all the major plot events, the point of no return, the major climax, all these things, right? All these things. And we'll talk about these things in other videos, I promise, guys. Don't stress. I know this is a flood of information. Then you can step into your pantser hat, right? You can put the pantser hat on, and now, depending on your mood, you can jump right into the fight scene because you're in a very active, the muse is taken over, and that's what you want to write about, right? You want to write about people teleporting and then doing backflips and, using crazy light swords or something. That's awesome. And you can do that now because you know that scene is part of a bigger picture that you've already fleshed out, and you've already decided that it can carry the weight of all that conflict. And then, say the next day, you feel like writing dialogue, like you don't feel in the action-packed mode, right? You feel like you need to talk it out in your head. Well, now you can go to the scene between the two main love interests, or maybe the scene between the antagonist and the protagonist, and they're discussing the main points of the theme, the two major points that are at contradisposition to each other, that are polar opposites to each other, and kind of each one battling it out with their words, right? The point is, when you plot beforehand, what it allows you to do is it allows you to go back, and when you pants, you have all the freedom in the world, and you can go as crazy as you want because you know that at the end of the day that scene fits somewhere, and it can go as crazy as you want as long as you get it from point A to point B. And the way I like to think about it is like this. If I have a dog, right, I want to give it a fence that's big enough for it to really live, because it can't always be in the house, right? But if I don't give it a fence, it could run off and get hurt or lost, like most stories do. But if I put a fence around it that gives it enough space to like play and eat and relax and has some shade and has toys, right? Then that dog can run around as crazy as it wants, back and forth, wherever it wants to go, but it's in the safe zone. It's not going outside the barriers of what is acceptable. And that is how you find the balance between plotting and pantsing. Now, I'm sure we'll talk about this in other videos, but that's the introduction for those of you who don't know what plotting and pantsing is, and just a few tips to hopefully help you out. Now, if you liked what you heard and you want to hear more, please feel free to give me a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you can get more of these amazing videos. But until next time, keep fighting the good fight and writing the good write. Take it easy.